Hi, I'm Davy. I'm awesome. Welcome to Davy's Awesome Wrestling, where I review wrestling-related things all from the perspective of a fan, not an insider. And this week, for the second year in a row, live from Wembley Stadium in London, England, was AEW All In, which they are making clear is now their biggest show of the year, which is awesome. Let's see how they lived up to that. The opening match, a 4-team ladder match for the AEW Trios Championships. The participants, the House of Black versus the Bang Bang Gang versus the Blackpool Combat Club's Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta teaming with Pac versus the champions, the Patriarchy. Gotta say, it was a great opener in a ladder match involving this many men. It's like 12 guys. It was insane. It was chaotic. A little hard to keep up though. At one point, the Patriarchy's mother, Wayne, started climbing a ladder trying to get to the Trios Championships, and she almost won it, sort of. But she was, taken off the ladder. No serious harm coming to her. And this match just went chaotic back and forth until Pac was able to get to the top of the ladder, grab one of the Trios Championships, making him and Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta the new AEW Trios Champions. Like I said, great way to open the night. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. Then for the AEW Women's World Championship, the Owen Hart Cup tournament winner, the Glamour Mariah May, versus Timeless Toni Storm. As we know, right after Mariah May won the Owen Hart Cup, she turned on Toni Storm, beating her bloody with a shoe, which, Toni Storm always says, watch for the shoe. This match was great, not just because of the actual, wrestling in it, but the drama in it. Even to the point of Mariah May slapping her own mother. But don't worry, Toni Storm went over there and comforted Mariah May's mother. And eventually Toni Storm got the very shoe that Mariah May used on her. But she just couldn't do it. And that led to her downfall as Mariah May was able to get a Storm Zero onto Toni Storm, get the pin, the win, and is the new AEW Women's World Champion. This match, like I said, not only was it very dramatic, there was a lot of story being told in it. It was just a really awesome match. I would also give this one a 4 out of 5. And then for the FTW Championship, which Chris Jericho had renamed for the World Championship, but competed under FTW rules. Hook challenging Chris Jericho, with the stipulation that if Hook does not win the FTW Championship, then he is out of the Jericho Vortex. Basically meaning, if you lose, leave me alone. And in true Jericho fashion in a hardcore match, he loves to keep bringing out a bag with new, painful weapons. We've seen hockey pucks, we've seen dice. This time, Jericho brought out a bag of cricket balls. Which, here's the thing, even though these things are goofy and weird, they're really things that you could imagine would be very painful to be hit with or fall onto. That would hurt to be falling on a cricket ball. Those things are made of solid wood. But Hook, instead of being slammed onto those balls, was able to get out, get a cricket bat that Jericho had hit under the ring, and use it on Jericho. But of course this was FTW rules, which mean no rules. So Hook, throughout the entire match, is not only having to deal with Chris Jericho, but Big Bill and Brian Keith. He was able to take out Big Bill, but Brian Keith was about to stop him from winning, and Taz, sitting at ringside doing commentary, just couldn't take it anymore. Got up and put Brian Keith in the Taz mission. And while this was going on, Hook is choking out Chris Jericho, getting the win, regaining the FTW Championship. She is now a 3-time FTW champion. Good for you. And this match, again, easily, it was chaotic, it was awesome. 4 out of 5. Then a 3-way tag team title match. FTR versus the champions Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed. It was good. I mean, really, this was kind of standard for these 3 teams. We didn't see anything new, we just saw it going together. We've seen FTR versus the Acclaimed, we've seen FTR versus the Young Bucks, we've seen the Young Bucks versus both of those teams. It was just basically they did everything they've done in all those matches in one. Which, cool, it was entertaining, just wasn't anything special in my opinion. And it just went until the Young Bucks were able to get the win and retain their AEW Tag Team Championships. The most interesting thing in this match came after it, when we got a surprise visit from the grizzled young veterans. They confronted the Young Bucks, then beat up FTR, which don't get me wrong, I'd love that match, FTR versus the grizzled young veterans. But we're still up in the air of like, are they with AEW or is this just like a cross-promotion thing? Who knows? I guess we'll find out. I think they'd be a great fit in AEW. Whereas I would say, like, again, this match was nothing special. I would say it still was entertaining enough to earn a 3 out of 5. And then, the Casino Gauntlet match. Which, they've done Casino Ladder matches and stuff like that before. To my recollection, it's the first Casino Gauntlet match. The way this one worked is there are 21 participants, but instead of wanting to be the last, you wanted to be the first to guarantee you were in the match. Because basically, the match would start every couple minutes, somebody else would come out. Because basically, the match would start with 2 people, every couple minutes somebody would come out, but as soon as somebody got pinned or submitted, the match was over. Meaning, potentially, 2 out of those 21 people could come out, and the match could be over. Meaning, it could not get to 21. I'll get to the participants as they came out. The match started with Orange Cassidy and the Continental Champion, Kazuchika Okada. Then, Nigel McGuinness coming out of commentary, getting in the ring. Is this going to be a permanent thing? I guess we'll find out. But that's awesome. Followed by Kyle O'Reilly from New Japan Pro Wrestling, Zack Sabre Jr., Roderick Strong, ROH Champion Mark Briscoe, Hangman Adam Page, Jeff Jarrett, fresh off his WWE contract debuting Ricochet, Christian Cage, and Luchasaurus, no longer calling himself Killswitch. The 2 of them having lost the Trios Championships that night, and Christian kind of blaming Luchasaurus, not to mention all the tension been going on. It looked like the very first thing that Luchasaurus was going to do was take out Christian Cage. Finally, but no. Instead, he chokeslammed Kyle O'Reilly and threw Christian Cage onto Kyle O'Reilly so Christian Cage could get the pin, the win, and now has a contract guaranteeing him a title shot for whoever the world champion is after All In. So Luchasaurus isn't going anywhere. And only 12 out of the 21 participants came out. But not only was this match exciting because of all the action going on and stuff, but again, there's a story being told with Luchasaurus and Christian Cage. Not to mention the debuts for Nigel McGuinness to come out and wrestle and look like he's not even lost a step for the debut of Ricochet. This was just awesome. Not to mention the drama of how many people are actually going to get to come out. This was just awesome. 5 out of 5. Then for the AEW American Championship, which was the International, but MJF made it the American. Will Ospreay versus MJF. This match was great and as intense as their first match. And there was lots of hard-hitting back and forth until MJF looked like he was going to cheat again. This time he was going to use brass knuckles, but a masked man stopped him. And that masked man turned out to be Daniel Garcia. And this allowed Will Ospreay to get the hidden blade onto MJF, and the movie said he would never do again, the Tiger Driver 91. Get the pin, the win, and become a new 2-time AEW International Champion. With a new belt that now has custom side plates. I'll get into that later. But overall, this match was freaking awesome. Another 5 out of 5. Then for the TBS Championship, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Mercedes Moné. Great back and forth match. Not a lot of fancy, flashy stuff. I mean, a little bit, but mostly just 2 really good wrestlers putting on a very dramatic match. Towards the end, Britt Baker decided to be the one this time to pull the Eddie Guerrero, throwing the title at Camille, who kept getting involved and falling down, so that the referee would turn him around, see that she was down, and blame Camille, and throw her out of the match. But didn't really work out, as Moné was still able to get the Moné Maker, get the pin, and the win, retaining her TBS Championship. However, this was a great match, a lot of drama, and I don't think this is over. I would give this one another 4 out of 5. Then the coffin match for the TNT Championship, as Darby Allin challenged Jack Perry. I mean, it was a great match. Of course, it was basically a hardcore match, so it was brutal. Typical weapons here and there, but also not so typical ones, like Darby Allin, I guess, gluing thumbtacks to his face before the match and using his face as a weapon. Not to mention Jack Perry bringing out a bag, which, again, what's in it? Thumbtacks, hockey pucks, Legos, Dice? Croquet balls? No. Glass. But even the strategy that Jack Perry had to go through. First, he tapes Darby Allin's hands together. Then later, wraps his belt around Darby Allin's legs, puts him in a body bag, then throws him in the coffins because he obviously can't get out of all that. Closes the lid, wins the match, retaining his TNT Championship. To add insult to injury and probably get him back for the Anarchy in the Arena match, the Young Bucks come out with some gasoline and they pour it over the coffin. They're going to light it on fire. But then it's Sting! Who came out, took out Jack Perry and the Young Bucks to save his friend. Like I said, another freaking awesome match. 4 out of 5. Then the main event for the AEW World Championship, the winner of the men's Owen Hart tournament, Bryan Danielson, challenging Swerve Strickland. Career versus title. Because as we know, Bryan Danielson has said this is going to be his last year in wrestling, but before he went out, he wanted to go out as the champion. And Swerve making it very, very personal, like he likes to do, constantly talking about how he's not just going to win the match, but he's going to cripple Bryan, sending him back to his wife and children who were at ringside. But this was not only a great match, it was a great way to end the show. The drama throughout it, like when Bryan Danielson took a very bad fall onto his neck, the neck that we all know has been injured, them calling out the doc, and for a minute, us wondering, is this real? It wasn't, it was part of the show. But Swerve Strickland using this to really take it to Bryan, just to try and cripple him like he said he was going to do. But then, out comes the heated rival of Swerve Strickland, Hangman Adam Page, the one who was obsessed with Swerve Strickland. But it didn't get controversial, because whereas, yes, he distracted Swerve Strickland, didn't get involved in the match at all. Just came out, distracted him for a second, and got carried away. And it led to another almost 10 minutes of Swerve Strickland and Bryan Danielson going back and forth, until Danielson was able to get the LaBelle lock, which later transitioned into a Rings of Saturn, and for the first time ever, Swerve Strickland tapped out, making Bryan Danielson the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion, celebrating with his family. A triumph, a feel-good story, and a great way to end AEW All In, their biggest show of the year. Easily a 5 out of 5. Yee! So AEW All In overall was so freaking awesome. There was only 1 3, mostly 4s, several 5s. But the thing about it is it kept your attention the entire time. The entire time, you just didn't want to look away because you could miss something. And this is the thing, they basically made it clear that this is now their version of WrestleMania. Their biggest show of the year, stadium shows, AEW All In. For example, next year, it's not going to be in London, Forbidden Door will, but All In is going to be live from Garland, Texas, at the Globe Life Stadium. But what I love about it is, again, this is what you should do for your biggest show of the year. Build a bunch of stories and give us satisfying outcomes. Not necessarily the outcome we want, but something that's satisfying. Because I'm sure most people wanted Darby Allin to win the TNT Championship. I say most people because personally I think Darby Allin has been TNT Champion several times. It's time for him to do something different. And I think that Jack Perry is not done as TNT Champion. However, satisfying outcome. But overall, yes, we wanted Will Ospreay to get the International Championship back, so it could go back to being the International Championship. I said I would get into the side plate thing. They obviously made a new belt, which looks exactly the same, except for on the 2 side plates closest to the main plate, there's now a little section for a custom side plate. We all figured that this was going to happen because not only did MJF's American Championship have that, but a while ago they brought out that new AEW Championship with the custom side plates, and we're figuring that that's the pattern that's going to follow, like that's going to end up happening with the other championships. I don't think I like it. To me, it really does seem like, okay, you're just copying WWE. Hopefully if enough belt marks express that, they'll stop it and they'll just be like, you know what, let's just be ourselves, but it doesn't look like that's the way it's going to go. But whereas I don't hate it, I prefer it without custom side plates. I'm sorry, I'm old school. I like the little nameplate that you can just put on the middle plate. But whatever. Either way, I'm still happy that Will Ospreay is the International Champion again. I'm already hearing a little bit of backlash that they shouldn't have given it to him. They should be pushing Will Ospreay towards the World Championship. I don't think yet. I think a little too soon. Let him keep being like the top mid-card guy for a little bit and build him towards the world title. And MJF, of course, I wanted him to lose that title because in my opinion, him going after a title like that, it made sense because he's angry at Will Ospreay, he's jealous of Will Ospreay, but it also didn't make sense because it's a step down for him. He's a former world champion. He shouldn't be going after mid-card titles. The Casino Gauntlet was an interesting concept that I actually liked. I think it adds a little bit of drama that in a gauntlet match, you actually want to be the first one in there, not the last. Most of the time they want to be the last because they're going to be the freshest, but in this case they want to be the first so that they're guaranteed to be in it. It adds some drama to it. The women's matches, the Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May match, that was the outcome I wanted because as much as I like Toni Storm, as much as her championship reign has been great, it was time to end it, and this was a great way to do it. Which doesn't say their rivalry is over, but it was definitely time for somebody else to take the title for a while. The TBS Championship was also really awesome. I was okay with it staying on Mercedes Moné because, yes, this was a dream match, but again, whereas Dr. Britt Baker is a former world champion, it's kind of a step down for her. But it was also a great way for her to come back, to feud with a big star like Mercedes Moné. And then the final match with Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland, it's just the drama involved there that we really didn't know which way it was going to go. We know Bryan Danielson has said this is his last year. Was this going to be his last match? Were they going to do that kind of story that was going to like build up, but have that tragic ending of he got so close but didn't quite get to that brass ring? Or were they going to give him the feel-good story of he's going to achieve his big goal on his last run, his final countdown, if you will? Either way that would have ended, it would have been a great story. But I'm glad it ended that way, and I'm also glad because, like we talked about earlier in the Casino Gauntlet, we had the return of Nigel McGuinness, the wrestler. And those of us who remember the Ring of Honor days, Nigel McGuinness, Bryan Danielson, they couldn't put on a bad match. Not to mention for years now, Nigel McGuinness being a commentator has been bashing Bryan Danielson, and we wondered, is this leading to the last match of Bryan Danielson's career being against Nigel McGuinness? Because we know in real life the two of them hold each other in high regards, they have a lot of respect for each other. And again, such great matches they've had. And that was back in the Ring of Honor days, when Bryan Danielson wasn't even at his prime yet. What could they do now? Especially because as far as McGuinness goes, like I said, during that Casino Gauntlet, didn't look like he'd lost a step, even though he hasn't wrestled in quite a while. So is that what that's building towards, is eventually the final match of Bryan Danielson's career being against the biggest rival of his career, Nigel McGuinness? I don't know, we'll see. It's all exciting. That's the great thing about a show like this, is where it pumps you up and gets you excited because the show itself was so awesome, but also gets you excited for the future that's coming. It's one of those nights that makes me go, man, I love wrestling. So, easily, AEW All In 2024, a 5 out of 5. Yeah! So there you have it. That's my wrestling review this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications when I post the videos, and leave a comment I can respond to in my next comment corner. Tell me what you thought of AEW All In 2024. Tell me if you're excited for the future. Love you guys.